Okay. Let's see. Waiting for Renee. You might have to press something, Renee. Oh, there we go.
There it is.
There's Renee. All right. So I am going to do a live podcast with Renee Marino, correct?
Yes, Marino, you got it.
So we're recording on Zoom and also on IG Live. I thought I would bring the experience to you all. So this is really exciting. So let's jump into it. And all right. So Renee, so I'm super excited. First of all, you're like my people. You are my people.
Girl. I feel the same way.
I just want to tell you how I'm so excited to chat with you because I know we were chatting on Facebook and everything like that. And I instantly was drawn to you for obvious reasons, as most of us were. So we did the Tony Robbins Comeback Challenge and then also the UPW with Tony Robbins this past weekend.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you, so I watched one of your live videos that you did, your crazy energy that you just brought, which I loved. Within 10 seconds, I pulled up your name. So I didn't watch the full video at first.
Yep.
I pulled up your name and I was like, who is this girl? And I'm like looking and I saw it instantly that you teach master communication. I was like, okay, need her on my podcast. I could just,
Yes.
I loved your energy. So I want to just acknowledge that and let you know why I was like so called to you is because I knew like you bring the energy, you bring the positivity, you're here to serve. And I'm just so happy to connect. So thank you for being here.
I'm honored to be here. So thank you so much.
This is so great. Okay. So, well, first of all, I know we're still on complete high state right now after
Yes.
UPW and the Comeback Challenge with Tony Robbins. As you, big fan of Tony Robbins and what an impactful weekend, 4 days, 15 hours each day in UPW. For anybody that hasn't done UPW, my goodness, life-changing. I mean, life will never be
the same.
So usually I start a podcast going into somebody's story and where you came from to arrive to where you are today. So I'd love if you could give a little snippet of your past and what brought you to what we're going to talk about today. So
Sure. I love that. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me on your podcast and on IG Live. Is that sound okay for you?
there's a little sound going on, but that's okay. We'll bear with it.
Feedback. Are you sure that's okay? Because I could turn that down.
I would turn it down. Yeah, thank you. There's the close-up.
Yeah. See, this is real life, guys. This is.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here, Erica. Thank you so much. I felt the same way. You messaged me, and it's so funny. After hearing the story of what happened, like I could tell from your message that it was like a quick thing. You were like, okay, I think you need to be in my podcast, but I'll get back to you. And I was like, okay. I was like, I like her energy. So I have been a professional actress, singer, dancer, Broadway and film and in television for over 16 years. And that was my love. Since a little girl, my dream was to be on Broadway. And I had, luckily I worked my butt off. I made it to Broadway. West Side Story was my first Broadway show, my Broadway debut. Before that, I had done lots of touring, Jersey Boys tour, and Disney's High School Musical, Cats. So I got to have a lot of great experiences touring the world, doing what I loved. But my goal was Broadway, and you know how it is. You have that goal and you're like, okay, tunnel vision, this is what I need to do. So I made it to Broadway after many years of hard work, and it was truly a dream come true. And I just continued working on Broadway from there. I did another show called Wonderland, and then a show called Chaplin. And then from there, Jersey Boys, which, to give you a little backstory of that, Jersey Boys has always been so special to me because I'm really from New Jersey. I grew up listening to the Four Seasons, and the storyline takes place just miles down the road from where I live. And it was the role of Mary Delgado, Frankie Valli's wife. It was a role that I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, this is a perfect role. And I had played it on the national tour. So when the opportunity arose to play the role on Broadway, I was like, dude, thank you. Like, this is such a dream come true. And while I was doing the show on Broadway, we had, heard some rumors that they were going to be doing a film, like a feature film version of Jersey Boys. So I was like, that's cool. But truth be told, didn't think anything about it. I said, they're going to hire A-list actors, someone like Marissa Tomei is going to play Mary Delgado. So I didn't even think much about it. And then one Sunday afternoon, Clint Eastwood, who would be directing the movie, was in our audience. Amazing. And I was like, oh, hi, Clint. Amazing. Here's a legend. And did the show. It was great. And then afterwards we met him. And slowly but surely they were calling people from our cast in to audition. And I was like, this is great. So I called my agent. I was like, listen, I would love to be a part of the film. It would just be such an awesome experience. I don't care if I'm just like a small little extra part, like sitting in a car. It would be amazing to do this film. And my agent was like, I'm on it. Don't worry about it. We're putting in the call to try to get you an appointment. So after I speak to her, I find out that they put out a breakdown for the role of Mary Delgado. So for those of you who may not know, a breakdown is like a description of the character that they're looking for. So I was like, wait, this is crazy. Like, they don't have a Mary yet? Okay. So call my agent again. I was like, all right, they put out a breakdown for this role. I would love to be seen for it. I mean, I'm playing the role on Broadway. I type into it perfectly. Like, let's see what we can do. She's like, I'm on it. At this point, many girls are getting called in for the role. I'm not getting a call. And at this point, I'm like, what's going on? Like, why can't I just get an appointment? Like, I'm literally playing the role. So my agent calls me and she's like, Renee, I don't know what it is. They won't see you as Mary. They'll give you an audition for one of the angels who sings My Boyfriend's Back. And I was like, wait, but I don't understand. Like, if I'm ever going to have an audition for any role that's right for me, it's this one. Didn't happen. So I was like, well, I'm going to go audition for the angels. And that's all I can do. I've tried, right? Threw my hands up. I said, I did my best. So I'm in the room with the casting director, and the casting director says to me, we saw the show last night. We loved it so much. I'm telling him how I'm really from New Jersey. And then he says, okay, great. Would you like to sing or read the scene first? And I looked at him and I go, Jeff, I have to be honest with you. I was really hoping to come in and read for the role of Mary Delgado. And he looks at me and he's like, I was just thinking the same thing. And I'm like, amazing, awesome, like, great. And he's like, all right, you can do the angels audition, and then you can either come back another day to audition for Mary, or you can do it today. I was like, nope, I am doing it today. I'm not leaving this building until I do that audition today. So did the Mary scenes, came back, first did the angel stuff, went in the hallway, went through the Mary Delgado scenes, came in, did the audition, and truly, Erica, left there that day just feeling so grateful that I got the opportunity. That was the biggest thing. So 2 weeks later, I'm at my childhood home in New Jersey that I grew up in, down the street from where the storyline takes place. And my agent calls me and she's like, you're Mary Delgado in the movie. Clint Eastwood loved you. And I was like, ah! Like screaming. My mom, my dad, my grandmother's there. They're all like going crazy. And fast forward to the first day on set. Now, I had never done film, TV, nothing before this. I had just done Broadway. But again, it was a testament to the importance of just believing in yourself and trusting. So I was like, okay. I go to walk on set, and Clint uses the same team of people. Clint Eastwood has been using, the same team for years and years, and they are incredible people. So as soon as I walked in the door, they were like, Renee, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. And right away, I felt so at home. And then the man himself, Clint Eastwood, comes up to me and he says, I went around to all the different casts, but nobody was in your class. And then you came in and put yourself on tape, and it was the icing on the cake. And I was like, trying to hold back the tears. So I filmed for the first day. It's amazing. I just followed my gut, did what I had to do and felt really good about it. And every day I would film. Clint Eastwood and I would eat lunch together. And I would pick his brain like a sponge. Like, Clint, how did you start acting? Clint, how did you do this? What about this? What was this like? Mary's point of view, what does that mean? Like, asked him anything I could, because for me, I was like, this is a once in a lifetime experience. I need to soak it up for all it's worth, right? Excuse me. So a few weeks into the filming, I'm sitting there at lunch with Clint Eastwood and the executive producer, and they're telling me how Clint knew that he wanted me for the role of Mary when he saw me on Broadway. And I said, I'm sorry, what? I said, you guys want to hear a funny story? I actually couldn't even get an audition for Mary. And they were both like, wait, what? What? We requested you. And I said, well, the only reason I got the audition is because I opened up my big mouth in the room and said I would love to audition for Mary. So everyone's so confused. I'm so confused. And come to find out, it was some middleman casting associate or woman who kind of just dropped the ball.
Wow.
And they had been casting a few different films at once and just dropped the ball. And I just love sharing this story so much because it goes back to the importance of communication. And if I didn't have the confidence to speak my mind in the room, I could have missed a once in a lifetime opportunity. And was such affirmation for me about the importance of being able to be confident enough to speak your mind and stand up for yourself. I'd always known that, but this specific situation for me, especially in my career, was like, wow, okay, Renee, you're right. Like, communication is everything. And it's not just work, it's our personal relationships, right? If we don't have that ability to, what I like to call, authentically, verbally communicate, we are going to cause ourselves such problems, because when we don't address issues, when we don't kind of say what's truly in our hearts, that's when, stacking starts. And that's when, you start getting maybe angry at someone for not the reason today, but the reason from 2 weeks ago. So I just really love that story because of that. And, it was my life. It was the most incredible experience of my life. I lived in LA, for 3.5 years after that, and did some TV, and then moved back. And the most recent Broadway show I did was Pretty Woman, the musical on Broadway. And during that time, I began writing a book on communication, because again, this topic would always come up. The girls were all in the dressing room. We're talking about relationships and dating and this and that. And I would see this common theme when I would ask. It's so funny. The simplest of questions in my mind, when a girlfriend would ask me advice about, a new guy she's dating, excuse me, would be like, okay, well, did you talk to him about it? And it was always like, well, no, I don't want to rock the boat, or it's too soon, or this. And in my mind, I was like, no, this is the foundation, right? Like, if you're really planning on being in a relationship with this person, strong communication is the foundation. So I was like, that's it. I'm starting to write a book. So I started writing this book, and then that show closed in August. I performed my one-woman show, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I know in my gut, in my spirit, I want to do something in regards to communication. Maybe it's coaching of some sort, but I didn't know the first thing of kind of how to go about that, how to start my own business. And then came this course called The Knowledge Broker Blueprint.
ABB.
ABB, baby. And my husband and I were on vacation, and we watched Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi's live video on it.
Yes.
Yep. And at the end of it, my husband was like, this is it. Like, this is it. This is the missing link that you always say you need. I always say, which is the truth, I'm so great with structure. That's why I'm a great student. Like, I'm great when you tell me what needs to be done, I will do it, and I'll do it 500%. But in this case of starting a business, I didn't know the first thing. So I took the course March 6th, and it was incredible. Like, it was at a perfect time. We're all in lockdown. We're in quarantine. And I was just immersing myself in the knowledge, in the information, doing the homework, implementing right away. And before I knew it, like, I was on a roll. I got my logo done. I started coaching clients. And, then I got to do these amazing challenges with Tony and Dean. And it's just been a whirlwind. So that's kind of how it began.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that whole story and kind of what led you to where you are today. Because that's what I actually really want to chat about is the whole thing you're serving today or that you want to step into is serving people in how to better the communication and build their confidence. So that's where I want to pivot.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing how you arrived there, because I'm always curious how somebody gets to their purpose or where they want to serve, and it sounds like because you realize in your whole career, it was all about being confident and communicating what you wanted and everything. And I think that's so important. Communication is number one for me.
Yes.
Always. If I don't have that in a relationship, it won't work.
Oh, Erica, that's the same with me. When I met my husband, so we had like known of each other for years, but when we were just about to like make it official, I'll never forget. I said to him that night when we were like, okay, let's do this, we're going to make this like a real thing. The first thing I said to him, I said, I just want you to know communication is everything to me. So I just want to like set us on the right foot now. And if, you maybe aren't comfortable sharing your feelings and that's not it's what you're used to, that's like very most important to me. And it was great. It was like this healthy, again, we were communicating. It was a healthy conversation that set us off on such a beautiful path because we knew what each other expected out of the relationship.
Yes. And you have to ask for what you want to get what you want.
Yes.
Which is communication, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if you're still continuing your actress career or being in plays and everything, but I know you're stepping into this serving people to become confident in communication. So let's get into that. So what has been your hardest, like the hardest thing for you in communication? What has been your challenges, would you say?
Yeah. The biggest challenge is having completely different communication styles. I'm sure many of you, Erica, I'm sure you've experienced this. We all have. We are in this day and age of what I call new school technology, right? We can text each other, we can email each other, and let me turn this off.
Yeah, sorry.
Nope, that's okay. So we're in this day and age, right, of technology where we could have a full-on conversation without ever speaking to each other. And as wonderful as that is also so dangerous to our relationships because let's all face it, you cannot read tone through a text. You cannot feel someone's heart through a text. So I can't tell you how many, issues I've run into with friendships and family members because of the fact there was a discrepancy in the way we were communicating where, they maybe were more comfortable just with texting and I wanted to like meet in person, have a talk. And there was, obviously some tension there because in my mind, when something is pertinent, everyone listening, when something is, serious, maybe it's an argument, it's something essential you need to talk about, please do not text that. Don't email. Yeah. Hop on, that old school phone call. I know we're on quarantine, but like pick up the actual phone and put it to your ear and have a phone conversation. If you're comfortable on Zoom, great. But what I find is many of my clients, they're not comfortable with the whole camera thing, right? Which we all need to start to get comfortable because that's where the world's going. But if you're not, getting on the phone at least makes you feel a little safe, right? Because you don't have to see the person's face and you can express yourself more clearly. And that is, like I said, in my life, what has been the hardest thing, trying to get, two different communication styles to mesh where you can have a strong, clear conversation.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Texting is like such an evil thing in communication. I mean, it's always misread. For
always.
Sure. So
always.
Completely recommend that as well. So let's say, so people that got to know you during the Tony Robbins Challenge and then also UPW, they saw you're always in camera. You're always like fully alive, fully present, able to communicate everything. It's not like you had a script or anything. So I'm sure that took training because you're an actress. So you have to train yourself to be comfortable on camera. So when we talk about confidence and communication, for somebody that doesn't have the formal training, what do you suggest to get comfortable when you're not confident already?
That's right? Great. I love that. And it's so funny, Erica. I just taught a course on this called Communication on Camera. I'm actually going to be teaching it again. It was amazing. And this was the biggest reason I did it, the question you just asked. So you're right. Getting on camera, if you're not used to it, it's weird, right? You're like, I'm talking to a screen. You want me to act natural? Like no one's talking back. Right. So that's always what's hard for those who are really starting out in this way. And my best advice is practice. And the best thing about being able to practice is it's so easy and it requires net time, no extra time. So what I advise my clients is when you're doing your laundry, when you're in the kitchen, when you're, getting ready for bed and, putting on your face creams, whatever you may be doing, put on your camera on your phone. Hopefully if you have a phone, that has a decent camera, it doesn't even matter because it's just for you. But what it does is gets you into the habit of knowing what it's like to just have the camera on. Mm-hmm. And then from there, just talk. Like, again, this is just for you, right? Think of it like a vocal journal. You're literally just speaking aloud, talk about your day. So today, like I went to the store, I had to wear this mask. I thought I was suffocating. This is such a crazy time. Like what's going on in the world, right? Whatever it is, like picture it like when you write in your journal. And then stop the camera whenever you feel like it. And I want you to watch it back. Because what this does is it shows you how you act when you're just being yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we want when we make videos and when we, share things through the camera. We want to bring our best, most authentic selves. Well, when we practice in this way, it becomes a lot easier to do that because we've been practicing in that way. So that way, when you are filming a video, maybe for your website or to speak to someone on Zoom, when the light goes on, you don't freak out now because you're like, okay, I've been doing this. It's not so foreign to me anymore. I've been doing it. So that, I would say, just to start out is the best way to go about it. And then have a friend or someone you really trust watch your videos back as an accountability buddy. Because take it from me, who's been an actress my entire life, and I like to call myself a reformed perfectionist. But in my days of perfectionism, the hardest thing to do is watch yourself back. Because if any of you are like me, I'm raising my hand. Raise your hand if you're like how I was and can still sometimes be. You see yourself and you are tearing yourself apart. You're like, oh my gosh, look at the way I look. Why did I say it like that? What am I talking about? My hair looks bad, right? We have this tendency to be our worst critics. So when you have an accountability buddy, they help to see things with clear eyes because we can only see so far outside of ourselves. And it's really, really helpful to do that. So those two things I would say are crucial.
Yeah, I completely agree. I did this other challenge that was a 20-day challenge called the Rise Up Challenge. And I showed up fully engaged. I went live every day doing my homework and everything. And just by doing that, I never did lives before. I barely I barely would get on camera, Instagram stories or whatever. And it was just because I wasn't yet per se comfortable, but also I just didn't feel obligated to do it. Right. So I was doing these every day. And I honestly, it just made me feel so much more comfortable and so much more comfortable in my authenticity too, because I wasn't there to prove anything. I was just showing up fully for myself and for others. Right. And I know you could relate to that as well. And I think honestly, after probably 10 days of doing it, I was so comfortable and I was so comfortable just being me.
Yes.
And also because I've been podcasting for a long time, it's been over a year. This is another way to get really comfortable in communication in many, many ways. Because before I started my podcast, I was not as comfortable in speaking, interviewing, and I thought I lacked that ability, if you want to say. Mm-hmm. And it really is interesting when you listen to yourself, you're able to hear how many times you say like, so whatever. And there's nothing wrong per se with certain things. Like we all say so and all these things. But once you hear yourself, you're able to recognize, oh, now I know that I'm saying that more often, and you're able to kind of catch yourself before you say it. So I think there's really, really a powerful lesson when you hear it back. And also looking at yourself when you're talking, you know? I mean,
100%.
you see it through a whole different lens. And I love the idea of using an accountability partner. I never thought about that. And that's a really good way to learn what's not working or what's working and how you're showing up.
For
Because
sure.
what we see is way different from what other people see.
Oh my goodness.
You know?
It's so different. Like, it's so funny. Sometimes once you all start doing this, you're going to laugh because sometimes I'm like, that was horrible, right? Oh my gosh, I have to do it again. And my husband, who's the best, like, he's like my accountability buddy. He's like, are you serious right now? He's like, if you do another take, I'm walking out of here because you have done 10 takes and that was perfect. And I'm like, no, right? And vice versa. Sometimes I'm like, I have this great idea. And I think if I say it, and he's like, nope, it's not coming across that way. So it's so different to see yourself as opposed to how someone else sees you. It's just the same as when you hear your voice. My voice sounds so different the way I hear it than when I listen back. Right. I'm like, who is that speaking? Right?
Funny. You know what I learned also, which I think is kind of funny and ironic that this happens when I do like 10 takes, 20 takes, 30 takes of the same thing. The first time is always the best.
Always.
It's so fascinating, right? Because the more we do it, the more we're trying to do it perfectly. And that's when the authenticity is diminishing, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about authenticity. So being powerful and authentic on camera. I think both of you and I are that, which is awesome because that's how we really reach people and impact people. And that's definitely the place I'm wanting to serve. So how do you think people could be more powerful and authentic? That is key, is having both.
Yeah.
If you're not authentic, people are not going to listen. And that's the damn truth, right? So
100%. And that's such a powerful question because we all live in this world. Again, going back to technology, I love technology, so I'm not completely knocking it because what a gift it is, right? But we have to learn to use it and not let it use us, because we are in this time where if I look like crap and I feel sick, I could put a filter on and feel great, right? So there's this element of inauthenticity that happens a lot. We all see it on Instagram. We see it all the time. And, I'm sure I was speaking with someone last night. They were talking about dating apps. And I gave the advice. I said, please, 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 if you are on a dating app, do not put a picture up there that is fully filtered or from 10 years ago. It's just not fair. That's being inauthentic. And yes, we all have our insecurities. We wish this would be better. Our face would look like this. But nothing is better than being completely true to yourself and being the best version of yourself. Mm-hmm. So when I talk about being on camera, I love to explain it like you're having a conversation with your best friend. Because when we talk to our best friends, we are not trying to be a robot speaking perfectly, right? We're just talking. We're like, I have to tell you what happened today, Erica. I had the best phone call with this other guy, and like whatever it is. And it's natural because I'm speaking to my best friend. But when I think of it like, okay, the green dot is on, the pressure's on, here I go. Hi, everybody. My name's Renee. I'm here to talk about communication. I've completely lost any sense of authenticity. Yeah. So if you can remind yourself that it's never, ever, ever about being perfect, about speaking perfectly on video, it's about being someone who is in a conversation. So the way I teach it is taking imperfect action. And I love that because we all want to do the things that we're afraid of, but we get in our heads and we say to ourselves, but it's not right yet, but it's not perfect. And the truth is we're never going to do that if we keep thinking like that, right? We're never going to take the action if we think we have to be perfect before we do it. So it's about jumping in sometimes before you're ready, because that's where you learn. That's where the juice is. And my whole life, that's what I've done is I'm like, yep, can you do this? Yes. And then I'm like, oh God, better figure out a way, right? So when you're communicating on camera and trying to find that very real part of yourself, picture that person who you are most comfortable with in your life, whether it's a friend, a mentor, whomever it is. And I want you to literally look at that lens And if you have to put a little Post-it note with their name to remind you, put them there and treat what you're saying, share your message as if you're sharing it with your best friend. And then number 2, remind yourself that that's what it is. You're sharing your message. So you want to make sure that the audience, whomever it is receiving your message. So when you get caught up in your own brain, like, I don't look good, this is about me, I'm scared, forget about the focus on you and turn it to, am I sharing my message as effectively as I can?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. And actually I heard this the other day that I'm trying to remember what this was. I think it was you don't want people to believe what you're saying, but people to believe you believe what you're saying.
Yes.
Which I love that, having the belief in what you're saying so you could translate it properly. Like,
yes,
you need to believe it. Otherwise, nobody else is going to believe what you're saying, right?
That's, of course.
Especially if you have a powerful message to share, they need to know it's coming from your heart, right? So, yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So, and the other thing to talk about is how to engage listeners. So, how to get somebody actually listening and engage. So there's many people that will listen, but they won't actually engage in it or actually absorb what you're saying. So how do you feel people could really absorb what you are relaying to them, or the communicator?
Yeah. When you are relaying a message or you're doing a video, right? Even just IG Live, whatever it is, and you want people to engage, again, it goes back to remembering that you are having a conversation. And this really takes like a little switch in the brain, because remember now, it is a screen we're talking to. So sometimes it's hard to like really understand that when I say, what do you mean a conversation, Renee? Nobody's talking back to me. Like, this is hard, right? But if you speak as if there are 20 people listening to you and you're staring at all of their faces, the way you engage is by asking them questions. For example, I just said to you, I spoke to you, Erica, and I said, communication is about authenticity. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that is a way that I'm engaging you, right? Because some people listen in the way where they just listen and they don't speak, they don't shake their head, they don't respond. And it's hard even in real life to be like, wait, are you listening? So on screen, it's even more hard if you're not actually seeing their faces. So when you engage that way with them by saying, does that make sense? If you guys have any questions, just shoot it in the chat. I know, sometimes you feel like you're not being heard, but you are. I am here for you. I want to hear what you have to say. And just those simple little sentences let the audience know that, like, oh, wait, we're in this. Because on the other side, when you're a spectator, it is easy to sit in front of your computer screen and pretend like you're just listening and this is a recorded video. But when it's live, by saying those sentences to engage them, it makes them realize as well, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh, I'll write in the chat.
It wakes somebody up, like, oh,
it wakes somebody up. Yeah.
And that even applies in person, of course. Like when you're on stage per se, is actually look at one single person and say, does this make sense? That's like a perfect way to engage somebody and actually wake them up to hear what you're saying and like kind of shake them up. Right?
I'll tell you a really quick funny story, but when I did one of my first like calls, my like group calls, I was actually speaking to, it was a company. And this is a little Zoom lesson for everyone too, because so many of us are on Zoom nowadays. If your camera's on, which I think it should be for the most part, and someone's talking, you have to realize they see you. Because I'm speaking to there was like 20 something people. And I had one person full on like brushing her hair, like getting ready for bed, like using the camera as a mirror. And then another person full on was at dinner with her family. So I'm doing this coaching and I'm like watching her whole family eat, right? But the reason I say this is because this ties into what we're talking about. They almost forgot that this is a live thing, right? and I can see them. They forgot that. So I would have to, like I'm telling you all every so often, be like, okay, so are you all listening? Are you all getting this? Any questions? Because I could tell that some of them actually forgot that I could see them. Like they really thought they pressed a recording and I popped up and just started talking.
Yeah.
So it's a really good, I put out a little thing to my email list, but it was called like Zoom call etiquette. Because there is, there's a certain,
well, now definitely, of course,
certain etiquette that you should adopt, to make your calls really go well.
Yeah. And then what do you think the difference is between a good communicator and a great communicator?
I love that. Ooh, that was good, Erica. So a good communicator is someone who is good at speaking their own feelings and speaking about their wants and their needs. But a great communicator is someone who does that and has this beautiful ability to be able to listen, to hear, and not to respond.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big, huge, if not the biggest component of communication. We are all sometimes in such a rush to say what we have to say. And like, if you and I are in an argument, Erica, you say your piece, and the whole time I'm like, oh shoot, wait till I say this to her, and I'm not listening to you. And then I come back in and I'm responding, not to actually move forward, but I'm responding to win the conversation. And that is something that we can see right now in our climate, in our society right now. No one's listening, and people will tell you they're listening, but are you listening to respond or you're listening to hear? Yeah. And it's two completely different things.
Absolutely. I love that. And that is the definite difference between a good communicator. And then the other thing I was wondering is body language. So in conversation, let's take this off camera, because really, I mean, I know we're going to have this virtual situation going on for a while now.
Of course.
No matter what, we need to engage in conversations outside of the virtual world. So
hopefully I missed it. I missed like face to face.
It's insane. Yes. So body language, being a good communicator obviously involves your body, your physiology, right? Yes. So being a good communicator, great communicator, let's say, what do we need to do with our body? What's the best way to communicate?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question. So when you are face to face with someone and you're sharing feelings of your own, and maybe you are feeling frustrated, maybe you're feeling sad, whatever that may be, you want to, what I believe, you want to give the other person the respect to see all of you. So what do I mean by that? If you're face to face with them, and you guys can't see me right now, but it's as if I'm talking to Erica, and like, as I'm talking, I'm turning my back to her, right? Because I'm trying to think about what I want to say, and I'm just actually turning my back to her. Well, that doesn't give off the message of like, I respect you and I want to make this work and I want you to hear me. But if I sit with my heart facing her, that's a completely different energy that I'm giving off, right? Think about when you guys are feeling sad or depressed. Your chest isn't open wide, shoulders back. You're probably sitting there, kind of anxious, maybe playing with your hands. Your shoulders are hunched forward. So it's the same thing in your communication with another person. If you're trying to show someone that you love them, that you value them, well, think of it like being an open book, right? You want to feel like your heart is open, your chest is open. I love you. I want to share myself with you. Because if you're doing the opposite and you're kind of sitting back, arms crossed, like, hands folded together, you're showing that your guard is up. And automatically the other person, consciously or unconsciously, is going to feel that energy. So body language is, it's if you're not speaking, you all know you could read how they're feeling by their body language, right? So it's a massive component of communication.
Right. And both of us believe communication is number one in any relationship. So to master the skill of listening and being fully engaged, and also when you're talking, to open your body up and be able to receive what's coming back at you, right? I
Yes.
believe, of course, when we talk about master communication, so which I think we should all, like, out of the number one skill we should learn is communication, right? So
Yeah.
mastering communication
Totally.
would be dynamic, right? So the thing about mastery, though, is we should continuously getting better and better and better, and also be able to learn more. So what does that look like? Is being actually like able and willing to be taught, right? So
Yes.
what you're sharing today is, some of it is common knowledge. We all know open heart, open body, facing the person. We all know these things, but we need to train our mind to actually put this in practice. And that's what mastery is learning these skills. Even if we already know some of them, like, actually listen to what you're sharing with us, because it's so critical in every facet of every relationship. So,
Yes.
so anyways, so let's see, the power in the pause. Let's talk about that. I don't know if you've been taught this before, because I don't know how much you've spoken, and I know you're probably going to do this a lot more, but when it comes to podcasts and then also speaking on stage, there's this thing called the power in the pause. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of this before?
I have heard of it. Yes.
I've seen it in practice, and it is, when you see what that means, it is a game changer. It actually, like, it's almost riveting, because it actually gives that sense of like, oh, there's something really impactful coming. So let's talk about the power in the pause, since you do know what I'm talking about. I want to know what.
Yeah, I think what we don't say is just as powerful as what we do say. So when you are in a conversation, and I think it's especially useful when sometimes things are getting intense with someone, right? When we get intense, oftentimes we're just going and going. We're on like autopilot, right? Whether yelling and just like speaking, and half the time you don't even know what you're saying, because your mouth is just spewing off things that you're not even consciously aware of. So when you consciously tell yourself, it's like taking a breath, right? Like, we breathe all day long, we do it unconsciously, but the moments that we can take the second to be aware of telling ourselves to take a breath, that is powerful. And it seems like the simplest of things. And it's the same with the pause. If I'm rambling, and I'm like, okay, you guys, so, and communication. Okay, on second thought, right? I took the pause, and now it's like, oh, she's gonna drop some knowledge bombs, right? Just because of that pause. Yeah. So that is a great point to bring up, because we don't think about that very often. We don't think about taking a breath, and we definitely don't think about taking a pause. Yeah. So it's a great point to keep in the back of your mind, especially when you get maybe a little nervous to speak. It's not the thing that you're most comfortable with. If you can, for yourself, remind yourself to ground. So like when you're sitting or standing, feel like your feet are in the ground and you are like rooted like a tree. That makes you feel like, okay, I'm strong, I'm in alignment. And then every so often, say to yourself, okay, take a breath. It's kind of like what our Apple Watches do. Time to breathe, right? Yeah. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, let's talk about influence. So influencing another through communication. So this is one thing that I would love to hear your opinion on. So for example, UPW experience with Tony Robbins, yes. Obviously we want to share it with the world because it was so magnificent, right? Let's say somebody has no clue who Tony Robbins is, and let's say no clue what UPW, anything, right? They just saw us going crazy in our rooms and dancing and all this stuff, right? How do you feel we could best communicate to somebody we love, or a friend, or even a stranger, of what this experience is, and also not only sharing what the experience is, but influencing them or inspiring them to possibly take that step for themselves?
Yeah. Well, when we are so passionate about something, we all do this in our everyday lives. When we're so passionate about something, we can't help but talk about it. Or, to our friends, we're like, okay, I just have to tell you about this thing that I went to. It blew my mind. Like, I can't even explain to you in words. It was so life transformational that, like, you need to go to it. Well, what is it, Renee? Well, there's this man named Tony Robbins, right? So it's about first getting in alignment with yourself to say, what excites me so much about this thing? Because from there, when you talk about it, it's just natural. Like, it's like as natural as like you talk about your favorite hair product or that favorite meal that you eat. And you're just like, you know, or ice cream. You're like, oh my God, I just got the best ice cream. I don't know what it was. They said it was mint chocolate chip, but there was something special in there. Like, I don't know, but if you haven't tried it, we have to go. Like, we have to go. Yeah. Right. And it's just that natural expression of what makes you happy. And then when they don't understand that, it's about taking a pause, right? Taking that breath and kind of knowing your audience, number one. So if you are dealing, perfect example, if you're dealing with a person who maybe I'm just imagining this person, right? They are, you know, a 9-to-5er, they work in the corporate world, they tend to be a bit of a pessimist, they, you know, aren't open to any talk of spirituality or the universe or self-improvement. They're the type of person that believes the way my life is the way it is. I am who I am, and that's it, right? If you're speaking to that kind of person, you need to know that beforehand. Because if you go right into the whole spiritual side, right, about, you know, the spiritual talk that we do, say at UPW, automatically they're going to be shut off. But you know this person's characteristics, and maybe they're not into spirituality or they're not into the universe, but they are into sports. And you happen to know that Tony Robbins has talked to Mike Tyson, Conor McGregor, did I say that right? The UFC fighter, right? He works with athletes. So you start from there in your explanation. So this guy, Tony Robbins, he's amazing. He has worked with all the best. So I know you were like a fan of Mike Tyson, right? Yeah, cool. So he is the man who helped Mike Tyson get back on his game when he fell off. Yeah. And all of a sudden you feel that person lean in. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's funny. Listen, we have to do it all the time, my husband and I, to some friends and family. For some friends and family, they don't really kind of understand. And then we sit down and we explain it and they're like, oh, okay, because you have to communicate it in a way that they will understand. See, what we often fall into as communicators is we seek to be understood, but really the people we're talking to want to be understood.
Yes.
Right? So I'll say that again. We always seek to be understood. So we keep talking. We're like, and I do this, and this is what I did, and me, I. But that's not listening to the other person when really they're the ones who want to be understood. So that means when you take this man again, for example, you're understanding where he's coming from, right? You already understand that he is not going to listen to you talking about changing your physiology or talking about gratitude every 5 minutes, but he will listen when you talk about some athletes.
Right. Oh, it's such good advice. Yes. Yes. We have to always consider, like, I love that. Actually, I don't think many people think about that is know who you're speaking to, because there's certain people, like you said, that will just shut off when they hear like something that's not
for sure
what they're into. Right. Oh,
yes.
Love that. So, on the flip side, how do you think we overcome the lack of confidence in our communication or speaking? I mean, besides practicing, but how can we best overcome? I mean, I kind of know the answer to this in my opinion, but I'm curious what you would say.
Well, first and foremost, when you just break down communication to its simplest form, the most important and foundational kind of communication is the communication with yourself. How do we talk to ourselves all day long? What is our, as Tony would say, transformational vocabulary saying? Am I, every time I make a mistake, calling myself a stupid ass, right? Am I, every time I make a mistake, saying like, oh, you're not good for anything? Right. That's what we call our transformational vocabulary. So we won't become aware of that until we first tune into ourselves. So what I suggest doing is every morning when you wake up, it's so simple. grab a piece of paper and a pen, set your alarm for 5 minutes. And if you don't have 5 minutes, you guys, there's a bigger problem, right? Because we have to take care of ourselves first and foremost before we can take care of anyone else in our lives. So set that alarm for 5 minutes and ask yourself this very simple question. How am I feeling? And then I want you to write and just let yourself go for 5 minutes. Why do I say to do this? Because when we write, we are taking whatever is happening in our subconscious brain, which is the part of our brain that just stores things that we're not even consciously aware of, and it sucks it out and brings it down to our hand and onto the page. So when we free write, as we call it, and you look back at it sometimes, what you'll see is things are revealed about yourself and about how you're really feeling. Like sometimes you'll look back at the page and you'll be like, oh, I guess I'm still mad at my girlfriend. I thought I was over it, but apparently I'm not, because there'll be something in there, you know, maybe you write something a little snarky that makes you realize like, oh, I'm actually not over this. And by doing that, it does a few things. Number one, it gets you in the habit of first being in great communication with yourself at the start of the day. Number two, it acts as a mirror for you, because when you hold that up, it's like a mirror of your inner being. And if you're writing things that are really negative and just really angry, well, you have a pretty good idea of the place you're going to come from for that day. And number three, it gets you into a beautiful pattern, right? Because we're all shaped by our patterns, essentially. So if you can start a pattern of positivity by being in touch with yourself through writing, that is so powerful. And slowly but surely, the more you do this, the more you're going to want to do this. And then you'll start to see things about yourself that maybe are habits that you know need to be shifted. And when you shift that habit, you'll be able to reveal that confidence. And the second part to that, to your question, is continually taking imperfect action. Because again, from experience, knowing what it's like to be a perfectionist, beating yourself up constantly, when you decide to take action, even when you're scared, even when you don't think it's completely, wholly perfect, you start to develop the muscle of taking action. And from the action, confidence gets built, because you look back at yourself and you go, you know what? You can do this. You know what, Renee? You were scared as hell about creating that course, but you did it. And look, went great.
Yeah.
And then from there, confidence starts building, right? And the more you do it, the more you want to do it, because the minute you tackle it, you're like, okay, cool. It wasn't perfect, but you know what? I learned a hell of a lot and I did it.
Yes, we like to have achievements and accomplishments. That is
Yes.
a way to build confidence. And I love that. Like I always say, just do the damn thing.
Do the damn thing.
Step into the arena, just do the darn thing. Because if you don't say yes, if you don't do it, then how are you going to know how it's going to turn out?
Exactly.
So yeah, I love that. I think that's the number one way to build confidence, and also be proud of yourself. Even if you maybe didn't do it perfect, you're like, but I did it, you know, like it feels good, right?
Yeah.
I know a friend that has a hard time coming on camera, so afraid. Luckily, I got her to do it during the 30-day challenge, 7-day challenge of Tony Robbins, but it was her hardest thing to do. And I'm like, just do it. There's nothing to be afraid of. What's so amazing is now you're only going to get better. Trust me. She did it.
Yes.
So I think that's so important, is just do the damn thing. Just step into the arena.
That's it.
And like you said, record yourself, be able to see what you're actually, how you're coming across, if you're uncomfortable. Because you could, when you're just naturally doing it and just recording it for yourself, then you're actually able to see how you are at a comfortable state, right?
Yes.
How you're being authentic. And then you get more close or more comfortable in being just yourself, right? So I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
So, well, I'm trying to think what else to talk about. Confidence and communication. I mean, there's so much.
I will say this because I think this is very important for everyone to know as well. You know, Erica, you saw my videos. You're like, oh, I love this girl, right? Well, they weren't perfect. You know, sometimes I just was speaking with a client and she was saying, sometimes I like go off on tangents on my videos. I said, we all do, right? I said, my first video, like in the, I think this was Dean's challenge, the start over challenge. It was hilarious because I said, okay, you guys, I'm going to go now. And I said that probably 5 different times, still didn't go because then I kept talking.
Right.
But again, that's real, right? It wasn't perfect, far from perfect. But people who commented and sent me love, they were like, we just, we love your energy. Like, oh my God, I totally connect with what you're saying, right? It was about my message. It wasn't about someone taking notes on how, the technique of my speech was. Yeah. So I think we all need to let that go. Like, let the idea of what you think it should be go. Yes. And just talk to your friend. Like, that's the best way to put it. Talk to your friend. When you talk to your friends, you don't speak perfectly. You sometimes flub your words, forget what you were going to say, go off on tangents, and that's okay. Because that's what connects us all, because we're all human. All of us do that. So when someone does it, and it's like if you were on a video and you're like, so I want to talk about this. Oh crap. I just forgot what I was going to say. You guys, does that ever happen to you? I just forgot what I was going to say.
Right.
So that's just an important lesson to remember. When you start this journey of being a master communicator, take the idea of perfection out of it. Just keep taking imperfect action every day. And that's the only vow you have to make to yourself. Because trust me, once you continually take massive imperfect action, the rest will come. The confidence will come. The ideas will come. And then soon you're going to be flourishing and you're going to be like, wow. And none of it was perfect, but damn, I'm on my way.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, exactly. So I always ask my guests 2 questions. Well, first, let me ask you, where can people follow you? So I want people to get to know you more and see what you're doing, and also possibly take your course.
Great. So you all can find me on Instagram at Renee Marino Official. And you can find me on Facebook at Renee Marino, and also at Master Communicators. And those are the main places I would love to hear from you. Send me a direct message. I would love to hear from you. And if you are interested, if you're out there and you're really interested in becoming a real great master communicator, I have an awesome Facebook group that I created called Becoming a Master Communicator Through Imperfect Action. And it's just this wonderful, beautiful community of people who are every day getting on live videos, and they're, honing their craft and really trying to get comfortable in that way. And we all support each other. It's a loving place. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely join the group.
Awesome. I'll join the group for sure. So I always ask my guests 2 questions. So one of the first questions is, because you're writing a book, this might serve you quite well. So I always ask people a piece of advice you would share with others on the first page. What would it be?
Oof. That's
like
good.
So many valuable things.
I would say start from now.
Ooh, I love
Start from right now, right? This is the first page of the book. This is the first page of the rest of your life. So let the rest go. Carry the great memories, carry the beautiful things, and let the rest go. Start right now.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
And then the next question is, what do you define as a passionate, purposeful life?
Oof. A passionate, purposeful life is a life well lived, full of joy, full of human connection, full of service, and full of tapping into your innermost, clearest being. And from there, always speaking and living in the world from a place of gratitude, from a place of connection, again, knowing that we're all connected on the deepest of levels, and living a life that is just full of a lot of here and now, right? Living in the present.
Yeah, I love that. I would always say right here, right now. I'm right here, right now.
Right now.
Be where your feet are, as Jessica says. I love that.
Yes.
This has been so phenomenal, Renee.
Oh, thank you.
You are just a gem, and I love how much you radiate on camera. And I just want to give you a big hug.
I know, I want to hug you too.
I know this has been so great and so informative. And of course, like I said, or what we both agree on is communication is number 1 out of in every single relationship in our life.
Yes,
So
totally.
great place to learn.
Thank you so
again.
much. I'm honored that you had me on, and I love what you're doing. This podcast is amazing, and let's keep doing it, girl. Woo!
Yes.